I know this is complicated, so let's review one more example. Let's assume we have an arm that starts at 7%. It's not a very good arm. And it has 2 6 caps. So the first year, after the first adjustment, the maximum this loan can go to would be 9%. The minimum it could go to would be 5%. Let's assume it goes right in the middle and goes to 8%. Next adjustment period, it can go up to 10%. It can go down to 6%. Say it takes its maximum adjustment and goes up to 10%. Next adjustment period, it can go up to 12% and can go down to 8%. We're going to have it take its maximum again. So now we're up to 12%. Now as we get up here, let's not forget about our lifetime cap. Let's go back and figure that. We started at 7%. We have a lifetime cap of 6. So when we add the 7 and the 6 together, that gives us a lifetime cap on this loan of 13%. So right here we're starting to approach that. So on this adjustment, the maximum we can go to is actually 13%, but we can go down to 10. So on this one, let's say we adjusted to 13. So the loan is never going to adjust higher than that. It can go down. Let's say the next period it does go down. The lowest it can go down to would be 11% because that 2% cap is up or down. We've talked a lot about how caps control how the interest rates adjust, but we haven't discussed at all how the index affects things. And as we discussed when we started this section, I mentioned that the index is what actually varies. So we're going to go through some fairly detailed examples of how the index affects the adjustment. So in this example, I made a little chart. And it has in the chart the previous rate, the index, the margin, the fully indexed rate, the cap for that period, and the resulting note rate. So in our example, we're going to start, the previous rate is going to actually be our start rate. So let's say we start at 5%. At the end of the first adjustment period, let's say our index, whatever that may be, our index rate is at 4%. And our margin is at 2%. So if we add our index plus our margin, that gives us our fully indexed rate of 6%. And we're going to assume that this loan has 2 6 caps. Okay, remember that means that each period or each adjustment it can only go up 2%, and over the lifetime of the loan it can only increase 6%, and in this case it can only increase 6% over the start rate, which was 5%, so our maximum rate is going to be 11. So let's keep that in mind as we do these adjustments. So if we have an index of 4% and a margin of 2%, that gives us a fully indexed rate of 6%. Think of the fully indexed rate as the rate that the loan wants to adjust to if it possibly can. Now on this example, if we start with a note rate of 5% with our 2 6 caps, that rate can go up to 7 and down to 3. So our fully indexed rate, which is what the loan wants to adjust to, is within that range. And so with a 2% cap, we will adjust to 6%, which is what the loan wants to adjust to, and it can do so because of the caps. So that 6% now becomes our previous rate as we talk about the next adjustment. Okay, with this adjustment, let's assume the market's done horribly and the index is now up to 8%. Our margin, as we said at the beginning, never changes. So the margin remains 2 and will remain 2 throughout our entire example. So that gives us a fully indexed rate of 10%. Now remember, this is what the loan would like to adjust to if it could, subject to the caps. But remember, we have a 2% cap. That means that for this adjustment, we can go up to 8 or down to 4. We want to go up to 10. The caps say we can only go up to 8. So with the 2% cap, we are going to adjust to 8. So again, think of the fully indexed rate as what the loan would like to adjust to. So it would like to adjust to 10%, but because we can only go 2% above or below the previous rate, we are going to adjust to 8%. So let's do another one. So that 8% now becomes our previous rate. Let's say this year the index stays the same. And so at the end of this adjustment period, the index is still 8%. Our margin stays the same, so our fully indexed rate also stays the same. Our fully indexed rate is now 10%. Our 2% cap is also going to remain the same throughout the life of the loan.